Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending upon where you are in the world. Buy Black for Life. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our Education Saturday conversation. Come on in. Let us know where you are watching from. If you are watching on replay, do hashtag replay. Welcome to this unbelievable conversation
Oh boy.
that we are going to have with someone that is more than a friend. She's a sister, a former colleague.
Yes.
Um, that if you worked with the two of us, you had to find a way to drown out the noise that we were making in order to get your work done. She had to find a way to drown out the noise
Yes,
to
get my
get
work
her
done.
work done because I would be in at the crack of dawn. And by the time she got there, most of my work was done. So,
Woo, I remember those days.
but Jerome Hurt, founder Buy Black for Life, and let me introduce you to my guest. Her name, and she's family to me, Crystal Murphy. She is a licensed clinical mental health counselor associate in North Carolina. While working in corporate, her approachable nature made people feel comfortable and welcomed. Crystal was the go-to person for others' work and life challenges. She is that person people share their life's ups and downs with, and we had many conversations about that.
We did.
In her, they found an empathetic, good listener with humor, and that's so true. Before joining Agape, she completed a master's in Christian counseling, clinical mental health at Gordon Conwell Theological Seminary.
Mhm.
Now, with her life experiences, she is able to marry her emphatic and great listening skills alongside her faith with education, giving her the tools to help clients meet their goals. Crystal enjoys working with women, teens, and blended families, as well as pre-married, married, and dating couples. She has experience with anger management, anxiety, co-parenting, depression, faith and spiritual issues, grief, identity, peer relationships, racial identity and racism, relationship issues, self esteem, worth, women's issues, work life balance, and trauma. And that was a mouthful.
It was a mouthful.
Crystal believes in traveling with her clients to support them to see the silver lining in the cloudy days. She is committed to assisting clients in bridging the gap between painful moments and lessening the feelings attached to the memories. Crystal helps clients build their confidence as well as self esteem so they can move forward toward a better trajectory in their life. Together, she and her clients can thrive. She uses Thrive transforming and building healthy, more robust, inventive, vigorous, and engaging lives. Her counseling guiding scripture. We are asking that you may be filled with the knowledge of His will in all wisdom and spiritual understanding, so that you may walk worthy with the Lord, fully pleasing to Him, bearing fruit in every good work and growing in the knowledge of God. Buy
Yeah.
Black for Life, my friend, the amazing Crystal Murphy.
Oh,
Welcome.
well, thank you. Jerome, you make me sound so awesome.
I, I love reading bios, because and as much as I know about you, to continue to see who you were to who you are now,
Mhm.
it's absolutely amazing, and I'm
Yeah.
I'm here for every bit of it. And I get private conversations
Yes.
with you as well, and we always end up with cracked ribs from laughing so
Yeah, we're laughing so hard.
but that is what we are here to do. So Crystal and I, after she had did a Wellness Wednesday conversation with us about mental health, um, afterwards we had such a deep conversation about young people and the internet. And it struck me that this is something that parents need to hear. So that's why we're here this morning, this
Mhm.
afternoon. this evening, no matter where you're watching from, because we're in 99 countries. So, Crystal, I would like to say you take it away from here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up.
Yes.
There we go. So I'll let you have it.
Okay. Okay. So hello, everyone. First of all, my name is Crystal Murphy, as Jerome indicated. And I'm going to talk about something about some of the clients, a great deal of the clients I see who are teens, and some of the challenges they're having with social media, specifically, but in the broad sense, screen time on their laptops, tablets, and their phones, more importantly. So I'm titling it "Social Media, Is It Social? A Conversation About Teen Mental Health." Yay. Next slide, Jerome.
Yeah, slide.
Okay. Can you do it in a slide format? Is that possible?
Yes, it is.
And I say like the
You know, you're asking me too much technology-wise. Okay.
Sorry.
This is the best I could do. I'm sorry.
Okay, no worries. So this is old school social. I want to make it bigger. The old school social, how we used to socialize before, right? Mm-hmm. Hanging out, laughing, joking, hugging each other, touching each other. That's the old school social. Jerome, next slide.
Here we go. All right, do it from here, Jerome. There you go.
Now, this is us, all circled around a gadget, a phone, a cell phone. And this has become the new us. This is us. The new way we communicate with each other. Oftentimes, people are standing next to each other, but they're not with each other in that space. So that's the new kind of way our devices and social media is going. Next slide, dear. So I wanted to define what social media is. It's online platforms used to build social networks and relations with other people who share similar personal or career interests, backgrounds, or real-life connections. So we have a general idea of what we're working with. Social media has really infiltrated our lives. With that said, social media is also a double-edged sword. On one hand, social media creates ways to make connections, exchange pictures, keep up to date, and it also creates isolation and comparison. This is the real crux of the challenge. You begin to live in these silos. You in your own head, in your own world, doing your own thing, and there from that space, you begin to compare yourself to other people. Mm-hmm. However, I believe education about social media leads to balance, which is the key to kind of moving through this new way of how we're going to live, how we're living with social media. Next slide. Okay, some of the benefits of social media. As I mentioned before, connection is the biggest benefit. But how during the pandemic, we got a chance to see how certain aspects of social media were really, or social media and internet was really helpful, which was in church. A lot of people gathered for church, doctor's appointments, information and research. So I'm going to check about the COVID vaccine and all that kind of stuff, research other kind of things, job searches. So many people lost their jobs or even going to unemployment. Online learning for kids was really, really huge during and even still to this time. Right. Online shopping, Amazon made a mint on everybody shopping with and through them.
And they're still making it.
And they're still making a mint. And another big one was Zoom. Zoom really came in as a pitch hitter during the pandemic, and for check-ins, for parties, for all kinds of things. I personally had several parties on Zoom, which were a lot of fun to kind of break up the monotony of being in the house.
Right.
Next slide. Just to give you something, can you see that some of the stats about, I call the big 5 stats, and really should be one more. Right down there is Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. But I would like to also add TikTok.
Yes.
It's another huge app contributor to what's going on. So essentially it says 86% of our late teens and early adults, so 18 to 29, use the below platforms. Another 80% of the people are in 30 to 49. 64% of the people between 50 and 64, and even at over 65. What I find interesting about that is as we age, right now, as it stands right now, we are less using or less finding reasons to use social media and the computer. We still kind of old school in that we like to have that more face-to-face contact and go to the store and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But a survey has found that 90% of teenagers, 90% of teenagers aged 13 to 17 have at least one social media account.
Wow.
All right, so that's pretty key. And 13 is a tender age, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Next slide. This is social media in the brain. And I find this very, very interesting. Dopamine is a drug or kind of a pleasure center that we get, that we were built with as humans, right? And so as you see that diagram on the side, the phone is standing right there. You get a text or a notification that something has happened, someone posts something, it makes your mind feel, ooh, something's going on. You get excited, and then you go through like a lull or it removes from your body, and then you want it again, and the cycle continues, right? So in person, we talk about ourselves personally about 30%, about a third of the time, which is not so bad. However, on social media, it's all about you, right? It's not so much about anybody, it's about you. So this is when you get opportunity to be in your head, because all you're thinking about is yourself, and people get a chance to compare themselves to you, because all they see is this composite of yourself that's on social media. Next slide. So this is a video I like to watch, if that's possible. Meantime, this is a video that's going to kind of give some statistics about teens, specifically girls, in regards to depression and suicide.
Gotcha.
You see it on your side, Jerome?
I do.
I don't see it on this side.
Okay, hold on. Can you see it now?
No.
Hold on, let me pause it. Share settings. I'm sorry.
No worries. We saw that little picture of the fella, but not the whole thing.
Not the whole thing? Okay.
Yeah.
And you're still not seeing it now?
Correct.
Okay. Share this. Yeah, I'm sorry, Crystal. It won't let me share it.
Oh, okay. So I'm something that said it essentially was talking about how they have been tracking. There's a specific doctor's name is Jonathan Haidt, and he's been tracking as a social psychologist, tracking the change in how our teen girls, specifically in this video, how they've changed from before the turn of the century. And when the influx of the cell phone came in around 2009, and how the statistics show the difference between the older teens, like say 16 to 19, and the younger teens, say like 12 to like 15 or 14, and how depression has increased exponentially. The numbers is like triple digits increase in percentages. And then it's also between the depression and anxiety. And then the last thing he talks about is suicide, and how suicide is a huge issue coming from the beginning, from when social media and apps started coming on the scene. In particular, another thing he mentions in that video that I like also is that he mentions about the kids born after 1996 are coming to age when they are in middle school and don't have a phone. They are the first generation to have a phone so young. So you have a 12-year-old, a 13-year-old that now has this device in their hand that really is keeping them in their head. And the video also mentions that because of these changes in how we associate ourselves with social media, girls are not dating, they're not getting driver's license,
Right.
They're living in these silos in their heads, uses comparison stuff, whatever, and it really is really a challenge for parents to parent them while they're looking into these devices, keep it in their heads. Next slide, Jerome. Okay, so these are the challenges that I see in therapy. So anxiety and depression, everybody's familiar with, but essentially anxiety and depression is the kids living in their head, either in their memory, which is depression, or living in their imagination, which is anxiety. That's conflated, but that's essentially what the problem is. And that is very much related to their experience in social media. Body image challenges. Oftentimes young girls have issues with when they see these Photoshop pictures on Instagram and Facebook, whatever, and they compare themselves, I mentioned to you earlier, compare themselves physically to what the other girls look like, their hair, their makeup, and so on and so forth. That's also a challenge. Bullying. When we were kids, bullies, when you left the school at 3 o'clock, the bully was at school and you went home. Now the bully is in your pocket. Right? It's on your tablet. It's on your laptop. And so the bullying now has, they call it cyberbullying, but it also it's in person, and then it continues into the phone. And that's causing challenges for kids to deal with bullying, that they don't want to go to school. They have a lot of social anxiety are based on that.
So we're saying bullying has never stopped. It's just that it's changed in a lot of ways.
It's because now you're walking with the bully.
Right, but it's not only so. I remember bullying. Right, it was the biggest, the strongest kid that would bully people. But now bullying, all these other things that are here, is now a part of bullying where it was not a part of bullying when we were growing up.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so now it's not always the strongest child, or the biggest child that's doing that. Absolutely right. It's anybody, and people get a lot of like bravado online. Even as adults, you see that they say a whole lot of stuff out their mouth when they're typing, but they never say to you in person. Never, yes. Right? But they say it to you online, and that's a form of bullying.
Yeah.
Right. Loneliness. Kids are lonely, and although they're connecting on social media, which is a plus, they're also disconnected, because part of connection is being in your physical space. That's one of the reasons why during the pandemic it was so difficult for a lot of people, because although my relative, I can see them in Zoom, or I could talk to them through FaceTime and that kind of stuff, it's not the same as being in the physical space with someone. So that breeds out a little bit of loneliness. And for kids in particular, they have a hard time practicing their social skills. So here I am, and I'm only interacting with this phone, or with my tablet, or through a gaming system. I don't have a real life kind of interaction with people. That's what you need to as they're growing up. And that's the time you're teaching kids how to have those skills, is teaching them how to handle these kind of things moving forward. Right? Low self-esteem and self-worth. A lot of them view themselves, it's part of the stage. When you're a teenager, it's a stage specifically coined by Erickson as identity versus confusion. Now, a lot of you who have teenagers have realized your teenagers are confused. And part of that comes from they have no idea about their worth and their esteem. And they're seeking it out on these platforms, in these kinds of chat rooms and gaming systems, where they're seeking out that kind of stuff, not realizing that's not where their worth or their esteem comes from, right? Poor grades, it's a huge thing. I have a lot of teens talk about school specifically now with being on Zoom. They hate it. a lot of them don't like it. And although they may not have liked school, like, big S school, they miss the other parts of school, which is the community and their friendships and playing in the outside for recess and all other kind of things. They miss those kind of spaces. And subsequently their grades are suffering. Not to mention sometimes they're suffering and parents don't know how to handle that. So what they do, they allow them to stay out of school. So they have further disconnection from other people. Another big one is porn, and porn is rampant.
Wow.
Rampant among teens. They're exploring on the web, asking questions. One teen might have one small child might have an older sibling, and the older sibling share it with the younger sibling, and the younger sibling brings it to school, and everybody's like, "Oh, what's that?" And we have Dr. Google, so we go to Dr. Google and we look up stuff. And next thing you know, the child is involved in porn. And I have seen kids as young as 8 and 9 years old having had experiences with porn. Porn is very, very challenging. And it can seep in through things like gaming. I've been told by a couple clients that their child was introduced to porn through Minecraft, and one other child was introduced to porn through Fortnite. So parents, I know you can't be everywhere every time, but really check in about those games that you give your child full reign to be involved with. Sleep problems, another huge issue. I've had several clients tell me they were on FaceTime all night. They're talking to their friend, boyfriend, girlfriend, whoever, on FaceTime for hours when they're supposed to be in there sleeping. And then they get up the next day, which affects their anxiety and depression. It affects their grades. It affects their social, their self-esteem. They're not getting enough sleep. Their health challenges, all that stuff around that is a huge issue. And the last one I call the granddaddy, which is suicide. All of these things can contribute to kids getting involved, thinking about cutting themselves and taking their lives and taking pills and all that kind of stuff. Suicide is up big time amongst the dominant culture, and even right now amongst minority groups.
Right.
Huge change in that minority groups are now seeking to take their lives as well. Right. Again, a comparison is part of it. Super depressed and lonely is another part of it, right? Have poor self-esteem, no contact even with their parents, and they feel a temporary solution is the only solution for them, and they are taking their lives. And this all started around, it all kind of went up like that when social media and the influx of smartphones come on.
If I can say, a dear friend and former colleague of both of ours is a football coach of a high school team here in New York. And unfortunately, because of the pandemic, the kids have not been able to play. And because the kids have not been able to play, all of these things that you list here, what he's having to deal with his kids. And so I know what you're saying is real, but I also want to ask you about one additional thing.
Sure.
Drugs, because I've come to learn that a lot of people are using social media and the internet to be able to buy and access drugs. Is that something you're seeing at all?
I haven't seen anything with any drug interaction, Jerome, thank God.
Yeah.
But these are the things I am personally seeing. I've also seen drugs is a definite issue. Risky sex behavior is another challenge that kids are experiencing. I'm not experiencing those things in the counseling room, but they're all valid. In the time when a kid is a teen, and they are learning how to be adults and that kind of thing. And of course, you've had teens, they think they know everything because they think they know everything. They're in that state. It's a very normal space to be in. However, the parent is still the parent. And I also like to challenge parents, as I get to the other section, whatever, about parent interaction with their child, is get ahead of your child with these kinds of things. When you wait and they're not mature enough to handle certain things, you are allowing culture, you are allowing their friends to give them a baseline of how to move through the world, rather than telling them how you believe, how you feel, how you move in the world as their baseline, and their friends and culture have to measure up against what you say, right? So let's give you an example. Oftentimes parents are reluctant to discuss sex with their kids or drugs with their kids, right? And then they go to school and their friend mentions it. And then they're like curious because their mom and dad have not ever said, so now they're curious. And now their friend becomes the expert and the resource. And now when you come behind it, out of left field, then you come behind and try to catch up.
Right.
Now the child was like, well, my friend Susan said blah, 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 blah. Now the parent has to now go against that.
Right.
And I know I'm conflating that and I'm minimalizing that example, but that happens oftentimes in a lot of different instances where parents are coming behind culture and their friends instead of being in the front.
I love that.
So as young as possible, start introducing these things to your children to get in front of it so that when they are now being introduced in other kind of ways, you are the expert. Rather
my mother started me at 5.
Okay.
Right? So whatever I was hearing in, with my boys as I got older, it was immediately, no, it's not like that. And my mother was amazing in providing us books as well. She worked for Planned Parenthood, so she had access to so many things. So access is also a very important thing because you can have access to the good. You could also have access to the bad. So
absolutely.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. Next was a video also, Jerome. Like you can't. So if it was in slide format, you can do that in slide format. But so this right here is a video. It's a little longer, 7 minutes long, and this video really talks about the social media coming in and the smartphone. All right, and mentions how, and in a lot of things I watched, and I'll give resources at the end. A lot of tech executives work for all those companies: Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and so forth. Do not allow their children to have social media.
Wow.
And that to me is so huge, so huge. I who invent social media, I who invent the like button, I who invent the tagging of pictures on Facebook, do not allow my children to have social media or give a real stringent time frame. However, they pump it out into the world. So it's almost as if they pump out that drug into us and we consume it, and they themselves at their house, they're not doing it. From Steve Jobs down. I heard Steve Jobs say it first. And now these other very recent tech giants are saying the same thing.
How huge is that? Like
huge to me.
And I put that in the chat so people are able to go to that link and take a look at that link themselves. So thank you for that.
They're as they're in one of the movies I'll mention later on, they invented like the like, and the business model was, okay, we're going to invent the light. They had no idea it was going to make a light of its own, and it has caused all these other kind of cultural challenges that we are experiencing right now. So the like meant one thing. However, now people are measuring themselves up to that. Or am I popular? Did you think about me? All these other kind of things. Wow. A little bit of a sidebar. When I talk to some of my couples in counseling, which is another interesting thing, there's a lot of arguments around social media challenges, about giving likes, about DM conversations, about who's your friend on certain kind of things. There's a lot of conversations that come up with the adults.
Wow.
The kids are doing it too, but the adults are struggling as well. There are a lot of challenges that adults are having with rekindled romances between old flames. There's a lot of opportunity, a lot of DMs where you have something on Instagram, whatever, people coming into your DM and they are making comments, and now you're lured away from your own family. There's a lot of stuff going with adults. So with adults who have a little bit more experience behind them, they are struggling. Imagine for your child who doesn't have a breadth of experience to glean from, and they are navigating the same waters that adults are navigating poorly, right? And so that's a real challenge that I feel having. And I think when adults realize that they're having that struggle, that it's so much more worse, so much
bigger
for the kids.
For the kids, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so much worse for the kids. And there's no conversation. That's the big piece. There's no conversation from parent to child, and in part, I'm sure because the parent doesn't really understand how they can influence their child.
Right.
So the next video talks about that. The next slide. Excuse me.
Okay. I know where you're going.
I'm calling this the Parent Combat Social Media Toolkit. Yay. So I want to read, because I have some notes about this. So the first one I call is the social media coming out. That's a fixed age to give a phone. So I kind of recommend or suggest, encourage that you wait to give your child a phone, preferably at 16. Although I know that's difficult. High school is a second parameter. I do not agree that kids in their middle school years should have a phone. It's a real challenge. They are much too tender to have that kind of silo conversations and that kind of interaction with people, and the bullying and the loneliness. And when you're like 13 and 12 and parents, well, I need to contact them, to pick them up from where I need a phone, whatever. I understand that. But really consider doing that and limiting the social media access for that.
So if I can add,
go ahead, by all means.
So you're very specific in saying no cell phone. You're very but they can get that via tablets, iPads, and other tablets. Are you saying that same thing? I
am. All of those things, especially when they have no parental supervision. Absolutely, I'm saying all that.
Gotcha.
With that said, also when you do talk to them about it, give them rules and limitations. I'll get into that a little later on, right? So talk to your kids about it. Talk to your kids and be reasonable. So the next one is social media budgets. Talk to your kids about how many hours they think they want to spend on their phones, on their tablets, and so forth. It also includes gaming. Gaming is a big. I mean, even now there's degrees in gaming. Did you know that?
I did. People are making money.
Yes.
Gaming now.
On gaming. So gaming is a huge another kind of thing too. But as I mentioned before, that's also a gateway for some porn challenges. And the amount of hours you spend in this virtual world is also a challenge. You're not spending time with people. You're spending time with an object. Right? And so talk to your kids about how many hours they want to spend on these things and gauge that and tweak that as you go along. Right? The next one is all devices curfew, which is a consistent social media shutdown time. So I recommend at least 1 hour before bedtime, no more phone, tablet, laptop, TV. Right? 2 reasons. One, the blue light or the light on the phone, that kind of thing, tells your brain it's 9 a.m. right? And you can't sleep. Right? So you can't sleep because your brain it can't shut off because it thinks it's morning.
Right.
And secondly, it fills your head with stuff that you can't shut it off. Right? So you're interacting with your phone. Like I enjoy watching TikTok late at night, which many nights is a problem because why? I can't sleep. Yep. Right? That stuff is running through my head, that the content's running through my head. And so you want to give your child a chance to succeed and do a shutdown at least an hour beforehand, 45 minutes to an hour beforehand, and develop a bedtime routine with your kids, whether the little kids more specifically or even the older children. They might do something like, I don't know, take a walk, stretch, do some yoga, do a thankful journal, grateful journal. You wash off the day, take a shower, use the restroom, you brush your teeth, do something that kind of tells your body it's time to go to sleep. Turn off all the lights in the room, but specifically with the curfew like that. And the next one is device fast, social media timeouts. And so I'm suggesting that you have like, say, either 1 day per week, like say you do Sunday, there's no phone, no tablet, nothing on Sunday. We're just going to hang out with the family, right? Or you might have, when we have dinner, there's no there's no there's no phone during that time. That's a different one. Or I say every the 1st, the 11th, the 21st, the 31st, there's no phones on those days. Create some kind of habit in your house that can give you time away from the devices. The no device zone is what I was saying about before. I'm sorry. Is no devices during dinner or game night or in the bedroom or some other kind of targeted space, and to not have a device hang around that device all the time. Parental controls.
If I could just, I'm sorry.
Yes, please do. Go
The
ahead.
last two, device fast and no device zone.
Mm-hmm.
I also think it's important for us as parents
Mm-hmm.
to also do the same. So
I'm getting to that down at the bottom.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No worries. No worries. Parental controls. All the phones have a well-being. My phone, I have a Samsung, has a well-being in the settings, right? And it tells you to turn off your phone for certain hours. You can put certain controls for how long you can be on TikTok, how long you can be on FaceTime. You can make the hours. You can make the 2 hours or 1 hour per week or whatever that is. You can make these kind of controls and make it password protected to give your child a chance that when if they do should go over the limit, there's a cutoff. Right? So look on your phones in the settings section for that. And model is you practice what you teach. So this is an opportunity for parents to say, hey, I too am not going to be on my phone during dinner. I too am not going to I'm going to honor the fast and not do social media and my phone during certain times, whatever. This is also if you need to check your email when you get up in the morning and you wake up your kids, whatever, check your emails, say do 30 minutes ahead of time. 10 minutes ahead of time, check your email. And then when you're with your child, you are totally present with your child, having a very physical interaction with your child. And that also includes if you drive your child to school or drive your child to the daycare, wherever they go, no phone. Be off the phone and have a very interesting conversation with your child. That means you're checking in, how you're feeling, how you're doing, how's school, check in with them with no phones, no gadgets. I can't tell you how many people I see walking around, whatever, and they'll have their child by the hand and they're on the cell phone. You are not spending time with your child if you have them at Starbucks and the child sitting across you with their tablet and you're on your computer doing work. That is not spending time with your child. That is your child is with you, but they're not with you. Right. And I recognize that's a challenge, but you're raising a generation. And this is the time to kind of try and, tweak them as best you can.
Yeah. I have this thing being in New York where it bothers me to see people walking down the street and they have their head into their phones and they could knock into you.
Yes.
And me, I'll just stop. When they get to where they're right in front of me, I will stop. I won't knock them over if I'm paying attention, but I will just stop. And then it's worse when I'm driving and these folks are in their phones and crossing the streets when the lights are green, but yet they don't realize it and they have their heads in their phones. We don't even realize the dangers that we are doing by being that way.
So down here in Charlotte, I'm so glad you mentioned that Jerome, because down here in Charlotte, when I worked in Uptown Charlotte, you know what that is.
Yes.
It's the downtown area of Charlotte, those who don't live here. And they were giving out tickets because the pedestrians were literally walking into the middle of the street because they had their head in their phone. They sent out notifications to all the businesses up and down the area to tell them to forewarn your employees, if you are caught using your phone and walk into the street, we will put you in the ambulance, but you're getting a ticket. Right? It's because there was too many accidents and close calls and that kind of people just literally just walking into the street with no regard what's going on. So even you think about that, if your head is so focused in that little world of that device, think about how it's affecting your child.
Yeah.
Right? You're in this world. You're not even connected to anything else. And part of that is being present. And that's why I challenge parents to be present with their child, even for a few minutes per day. And the last one on that list is for the toolkit is the great outdoors. Introduce your kids to going outside and playing sports. What? Ride a bike. Oh my God. Get a hobby. Do some knitting, woodwork, painting, sports. A lot of kids. I had a party for my stepdaughter several years ago. She was probably like, I don't know, 10. And some kids came over to the house and I had some games planned for outside. I got so much pushback.
Really?
Oh my God. They were like, outside, it's hot. I don't have my, what are we going to do outside? I was like, oh my God, when I was a kid, I could not wait to get outside. And they were like, no, I'm not going. I mean, I had a lot of pushback.
Wow.
When I finally convinced them to go outside, they had a good time. But I probably spent a good 15, 20 minutes having a conversation to kids about going outside and playing games outside rather than being in the house.
Wow.
Yeah. I say to parents, introduce your kids to the great outdoors.
Especially now that things are starting to reopen.
Open up. Yeah.
And I get like a year ago and up to maybe the last few months, that was hard. But they were even outside of your own home, depending upon where you are, if you're in a house, there are things that you could certainly do. Absolutely. And, kids, I think about my own kids that started to move towards being in the house more like you, Crystal. I mean, I grew up that being in the house was punishment, right? So
what? I'm in the house? No.
You wanted to be outside, and we're social beings. That's the thing. God created us as social beings, so being in the house is not good for us as beings. So so important. Thank you for that. Now,
yeah. I think the challenge that is, though, when we think about that, Jerome, is that people are having conversations in their heads, right? So you've had a time where you thought something and it was in your head and it's twirling around in your head, and then you say it out loud. You go, "Oh, that's kind of dumb," or But if you're only in your head and you have no one to check it for you, nothing to contrast it to, whatever, you're stuck in your head, and then you move from that space and do something else. Adults do that is one thing, whatever, and they're, we're gonna hold them accountable. But when you have a child doing that, whatever, just we need to teach them how to navigate that, which means we have to talk to our kids. So let me just say this one little quick thing. I have a lot of parents that come in. When I talk to the kids, I talk to the parents along on the journey, and oftentimes parents don't know what to say to their children. They don't have. I have one parent in particular. One of the reasons why she's coming to counseling because her mom doesn't know how to talk to her.
Wow.
I have a lot of kids who tell me, I offer them the opportunity to have their parent come in and join them in the session, and they'll say, "Nope, I don't want to talk to my mom and dad in here. Nope, this is my space." They don't want, and the parents are struggling. So along the line, something broke. I don't know, and the child has chosen to go mute in the house. So that's also creates the loneliness as well, because the parent, any kind of teaching moments are lost because something happened in their history, and I don't know what that is oftentimes, and now the child is 15 and acting out, and the parent can't talk to them because something broke beforehand, and they refuse almost to talk to their parent.
So if I have as a parent, and my mic is terrible, sorry. One of the things that I did with respect to that was dinner around the table, right? And having those conversations around the dinner table. You learn so much about your children, so much about what's going on in their world. And also you learn stuff about yourself as a parent being at that dinner table. So if me, and I'm not saying I was any great parent, I'm not claiming that at all, but I'm just saying if I can offer anything with respect to opening up the lines of communication to our children, making sure that no matter what time it is, right? Even if you're going to be late, when you have that around the dinner table time, it is so valuable. So that's just what I wanted to offer up.
But you say that though, Jerome, having dinner around the table is a lost art. Many people are, I have parents who, if they have 3 kids, they bring home takeout for each child individually. And so it's not even like we all going to have pizza, all going to have Chinese. So you like Chinese, you like pizza, you like Fridays, you like Carrabba's, you like Olive Garden, and I will go all these different places and pick up the food. And then we get home and we all go in our little rooms, our little corners, our little spots, and we eat our food by ourselves. And that's why one of the things about having a timeout is making dinner time. That time is a great time to be a time of we're going to talk to each other. There's going to be no phone at the table, and I mean no phone at the table. I mean you put it in a dish and put it away off the table. Even having the phone on the table when it buzzes, when it vibrates, it's enough to distract you.
You'll look down.
Yeah, don't look down. Now, before we move to the next slide, I want to say one other thing. Parents, I challenge you on this. You cannot dot every I and cross every T. It's just impossible. It's impossible to hit everything, and every child is different, right? And so I think it's trying to just be, as you can, be in front of it, as you can, dot as many I's as you can, and cross as many T's you can. And if you miss one, you just miss one, and it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Next slide, Jerome. So here's some resources. These are some YouTube. The first 3 are some YouTube movies and that you could watch. These are really, really good to give you a much broader perspective on how kids are responding to social media and their tablets and their kind of things. The last one was the one I was going to play about. It talks about how Steve Jobs invented the phone and he's a minimalist and how it has morphed to something else. So those are 3 good resources. Netflix. I love The Social Dilemma and The Great Hack. The Great Hack specifically talks about how the 2016 election was lost over social media, over Facebook. Really good movie to talk about. Those are 2 documentaries. Really, really good movie to talk about. And the next ones are several books. The first one is a workbook that you can give your teen to help them navigate social media and to understand what's going on with social media and how they can be more of an advocate for themselves in that space. The other ones are things that the parents can use with their kids or for themselves to give them guidelines to help their kids navigate social media, help them navigate social media. It's new for everybody. It's a new thing. And people are making mistakes, and it's okay, you make a mistake, but here's some tools to kind of navigate through those kind of spaces and mitigate some of the challenges that you're having with your child and your teen. And my next slide is asking any questions, but you have any questions? My next slide is questions.
Let me take a look.
Questions and comments.
I see comments. Something you had said. Yes, it's definitely a challenge. Deshawn Road, I like the no device zone. She models because her job is social media and she teaches her kids how to effectively use social media. Yeah, and it's a hard thing, because Crystal, when I think about it, we didn't grow up in a social media age, so the challenges that young people are dealing with are significantly different than what you and I had to deal with when we were growing up. And the parents as well. Like my mother never had to worry about, social media. When we talk about, the older sibling or the older friend exposing you to, for example, porn, we had magazines, right?
Very different.
And I say this all of the time, right? My sons at 5 and 6, I remember I got the swimsuit issue of Sports Illustrated, and I couldn't find it, and it's under their bed.
Oh, I love it.
Guys, what are you doing? You know,
What's going on?
But that was, you know, a parent, as a parent, not being afraid to have any conversation, because my mother was not afraid to share any conversation. That opened up an opportunity to say, okay, guys, you know, you took this. What were you looking for? What were you looking at? What questions do you have? And I think because of that, at such a young age, they are responsible in, you know, that particular area. So I'm thankful for that. But I'll never forget it. I'm like, where is my Sports Illustrated? I can't find it. And they had it.
They had it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But now it's coming through the stream, so that their phone, they can have it. They can have it with them in the. You know, I you know, you have some clients that they're going to the bathroom with their phones. Yeah. Right. We it's another place you could make like a no device zone, going into the restroom. There's oftentimes people go in the restroom and they'll spend hours. They're not doing the natural stuff. They're on the phone, if not watching porn, something like that, or they're doing other things, posting on in the bathroom, because now it's a locked room. They can close the door and no one's going to really interrupt them, you know, so to speak. So it's becoming a real challenge. And I think what you said though, Jerome, is that parents are having a hard time because, like you said, they didn't have to deal with this. So we're all kind of learning together. But in that said, though, the parent has to kind of lead the way, right? We're learning together, absolutely. That's why I say you can't dot every I and cross every T, but you have to get in front of it. Because I'm seeing kids, somebody taking their lives, and they're super anxious, and if you're not dating and scared to go out in public, that's another bigger issue. You know.
And I'm sorry, my mic seems to be just.
I hear you terrible.
Fine. One of the things that we have to also talk about, and this is intertwining porn, is when young people are taking inappropriate pictures of themselves, and they're sharing it, and then that person who receives it is then sharing it elsewhere. Depending upon the age, that's child pornography. And that label, that thing, can follow your child for the rest of their lives. So there's legal ramifications with this stuff as well, that our young people just need to be mindful of. And I don't think we as parents recognize that. Again, and it's with the advancement of smartphones, right? My kids didn't get my kids didn't get smartphones until they were in college. They got cell phones in high school, but they didn't get smartphones. Smartphones didn't come out until they were they might have been at the end of their college years, but it's a different world now.
But smartphones came out around 2006 or 7. And it got to a place where the app started coming to the phone around 2009, and that's kind of like the cutoff part around 2009, 2010, and it kind of goes forward. One of the other thing about porn too, it's not just boys. There are many girls who are watching porn. Many girls. And so people think it's just boys. It's not just boys. Even and when it comes to body image, that's not just girls, it's also boys as well. They're also anorexic, they also bulimia with them. It's not, and where things used to be kind of gender specific before, it's kind of blending. So it might still be heavier that boys still watch more porn than girls, but the girls are not far behind them. Right, so it is universal, so to speak, and it's not just white people; it's all people. Right, so it's not, we can say, "Oh, I can't." It's not that. No, it is as this is my opinion, my personal opinion. As we continue to assimilate into their culture, we also take on some of the dominant culture's things, so to speak, and this is one of those things that we take on as well. So those kind of things that happen, not just for them, it's happening for us as well. We can't put our head in the sand and say, not us, we're not an ostrich nest. It's real.
Yeah.
I have one more slide, Jerome, I want to
Yeah.
share.
Bring that up.
Okay, here's some counseling resources. If you have a child or yourself that are struggling with some of those things I mentioned, those challenges, anxiety and loneliness and self-esteem issues and porn, here's our three websites: Psychology Today, Therapy for Black Girls, and Good Therapy. You can look and research for a therapist or counselor to talk to you. When you research, I would suggest that you do a consultation to see if it's a good fit. And that means you talk to them, whatever, and ask them some questions. And then if you go in for 1 or 2 sessions and you don't like this person or something's going on, whatever, change. You're not married to that person. The last one is a scholarship specifically for Black women and for Black girls. And so therapy is so important that there's the Loveland Foundation. This is a therapist, I can't remember her name. She started a not-for-profit organization to raise money so that she could offer, I think it's 6 sessions for a Black girl or a Black woman to go get some counseling and therapy.
Wow.
Where they don't have to pay for it. So 6 sessions, you can at least get a taste of something, and then you can work on going beyond that. Maybe your insurance kicks in or something. I don't know. But there's becoming more and more opportunities for people to get help, because there's no stigma attached to it. We are all varying degrees of struggling in varying different areas. No one is omitted from that. Everyone is struggling with something. And when it starts to interrupt your life, when you no longer can go to work or go to school or be involved with your spouse or be involved with your children, it's interrupting your life, that's the time to get some help.
This has been absolutely amazing, Crystal. I'm waiting. I'm looking for questions. I'm not seeing questions. I'm sure when people do the replay, they might have questions, and if they do, I'll be sure to pass them on to you. But
Okay.
this was absolutely amazing. This entire presentation. Is there any more or slides?
The last one is just my contact information. That's it.
Yes. Crystal is somebody, like I said, I've known how many years?
Oh, I met you in 2005. So, wow.
Wow.
16 years.
16 years.
Yes.
And when I say we know each other,
oh yeah.
the conversations we have had with each other as friends, like I'm thankful for our friendship and our relationship.
As am I.
We have sat with another brother. His name is Rodney, and I hope Rodney's watching. I did let him know about this. We have had conversations that the three of us, it would just go round, and we all took our turns being on the hot seat.
It was rich.
But it was rich, and it was so real because we all were extremely vulnerable, number one. And also we were extremely open to like what each other was saying in order to hold one another accountable. And that's what, for me, has made our relationship what it is. We laugh our heads off. People don't even know, Crystal. If they knew, we act.
I'm a comedian. I love it.
We act foolish, but we are so real with each other as friends, and I think that is so valuable. This topic is so valuable. Mental health, Crystal, we are focusing on it. I'm having so many conversations with people, you included, that we can maybe have something where we're sending out referral resources and things of that sort to people, including also faith-based as well, which is so important because I think it's important to tie into so much about what we do in terms of therapy, to tie in, God into what it is that we're doing, because a lot of healing is right there in the word.
A lot of healing, and people are intimidated by that Bible and can't find it. But there's a character in that Bible that has experienced every emotion you've experienced.
Mm.
Every emotion you've experienced, there's someone in the Bible who has something very similar, if not the same thing. And so that if you know how to read that thing, it can heal you.
Yeah.
It can heal you.
It's healed me.
Yes, it has healed me as well. It's healed me as well.
More than once. And I know the clowns we used to be. We're still clowns, but
I was a clown, seriously.
Crystal, you are what is it I used to say? Stay up to everybody, and you want me to say that to you? I'm not saying that to you. Get out of here. You
stay up.
Oh, don't get me started. We can be here forever.
We start clowning in a minute.
Buy Black for Life. I'm going to bring up Crystal's information again. She's an amazing resource. If she can't do it, I'm sure she'll be able to help you and guide you with whatever it is you need. You know where I am. I am about mental health, because as much as we talk about hurt people, healed people heal people. And I know the two of us, that is a journey that we are on, and we're about it unapologetically and religiously as well. So Crystal, any last words that you would like to share with Buy Black for Life, my friend?
No, I love this opportunity. Thank you so much, Jerome, for sharing one of my passions about counseling. When I'm counseling, God didn't give me any children naturally, but I have an opportunity to pour into kids' life in this kind of way. So I'm very passionate about helping out my teens navigate where their parents are having a struggle and challenge. I kind of step in and bridge the gap. So I am so grateful for this opportunity.
I can't wait to get to Charlotte now that I have the vaccine.
I got mine too.
Awesome. Can't wait to get to Charlotte that we can
looking forward to it.
Get together. We're going to blow the roof off of a restaurant. I already know it, wherever we are at. But I love you.
Love you too, dear.
Miss you.
Yes.
I thank you for Buy Black for Life, for the love of our people. Thank you. Have a wonderful day and a wonderful week.